to another edition of Schmoes of the North. I am your friendly neighborhood soda, and as always, I am joined by my main man, our resident corruption fan guy, Daniel.
We're getting better.
I didn't want to use shill again.
It's okay. Lou used cheerleader, and that's the real one that hurts. But
Yeah, fair enough. Corruption aficionado.
That's pretty nice. Makes
right.
me sound composed and
distinguished.
Sounds like, yeah, it sounds like I hang out with Adam Collins and we have like bourbon on the rocks together.
I think that's what I'm going to call you from now on, the corruption aficionado.
But yeah, and as you were saying, like it kind of does seem like we're always on this show together.
It really does. Well, between Lou's busy and Dave had his internet issues for a while. Yeah, pretty much it was us for a while.
Yeah, Lou's booked for the next 18 to 24 years-ish.
Yeah,
about then.
Pretty much, if he could get his kid out of the house by then. So how you doing, my man?
Not bad. Just kind of finishing up a week at a new job, so real tired because it's very physical work, but also just kind of learning the ropes and really looking forward to getting into something that is a lot more fun than work.
Yeah, and let's hop right into it. It was the finals of the team tournament, and oh my god, what a finals it was. It was none other than the Odd Couple versus Final Exam. Holy shit, what a barn burner.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned this last week when we were previewing it, that like this was one of the matches to watch, and every one of these teams' matches has been, like, bar none, they've all been incredible, like feats of like competition between players, especially. And this one is no different. We knew from a while ago that Jeff Snyder has been on a war path, right? And he could not get it done in that singles tournament, and he tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it didn't even matter.
And you know what? He came back in this one like a bat out of hell, and he got his win. Mm-hmm. And holy shit, did he get his win? Like it was the highest. Was it the highest scoring team match in history? 5.5 round.
Yes, with an asterisk.
Is it because of that round 4 or round?
Yes.
Yeah.
The lightning round has twice as many questions as a regular speed round, and also when you look at the average speed round has like a max swing of about 3 points.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it has a much bigger field, and considering these competitors answered a lot of those questions, it tends to push the points factor a little bit.
Yeah, because I think all told it was 93 combined points.
Yeah, I've got a 48 to 45 final.
Yeah,
so
that's
93. It is.
Like that's something to sneeze at. Like even the loser had that. That's a good game, even though they lost.
See, it's interesting because a lot of our teams' championship matches, right? The 5-round teams matches, we've seen, especially in recent years, mostly corruption versus founding fathers, right?
Pretty much.
And like those teams are interesting because they always seem to, like when those two play each other, they play their kind of worst games, but always like close. And it seems like corruption is a better team when they face anyone else in the league, and the same can be said of the founding fathers, except their matches get very close, but because there are always those pressure hiccups, you don't end up with like such a point total at the end. Plus they've actually done the old format and the new format, and if I'm not mistaken, one of the teams may have broken 40 points, but they didn't get this close.
No, this was just astronomical. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
And also, as I've been saying quite a few times as we cover these teams matches, it's that first round
Hmm?
where like the most points are available, and that first round ends in a 3 point a 3 point difference, and so does the match.
Yeah, and all because one of the teams, the odd couple, both got perfect rounds.
Hmm. Which were very impressive rounds. In fact, Lon also got a perfect round.
Correct.
Paulo Yama, who is kind of known for scoring perfect rounds, is the only person who missed any questions in that first round.
Yeah, and that was definitely, you could argue, the downfall of the game right there is Paul missing those two. Right, it was two that he missed.
Yeah, it's the Prince of Thieves
Yeah,
question and Dorothy's slippers, which I found incredible.
yeah,
It's
that
like
one's
what
weird
color?
because of how known he is for older movies.
Mm. Although, when watching the match, I both really appreciated that, and also Lon's foreshadowing of it that nobody could have seen coming.
Hmm.
Because during the pre-match interviews, he mentions that he never reads, and turns out reading was bad.
Yeah.
And I've gone on about this enough in private, probably not too much on the show, but as a like Harry Potter fan from my childhood, I constantly have these things that I remember in two different ways because they happen in distinct ways depending
Mhm.
on which medium you enjoy them in. And yeah, just Mark answering like ruby slippers, silver in the books, and
Yeah.
then with Lon's comment from previous about how you never read because it's bad for you.
You want to hear a
And
little bit of
then
trivia about why it
turns
was
out
Ruby Slippers in the movie?
Oyama, possibly because silver didn't show in black and white.
Uh, Kinda. You're half right. It's because silver didn't show up properly in the Technicolor that they were using in the 1930s.
Mm,
So that's why they went red.
I see. Oh yes, because Oz is actually the color part of that
Yeah.
film, right? So
Yeah.
it wouldn't really matter too much.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I thought it was so funny that just like, oh, you read the book and so you're wrong, and
Yeah. Who knew?
how much that must get to, and it would get to me because I have all of those Harry Potter trivia bits in my head of like so and so casting a spell, and they don't do that in the movie series because
Yeah.
the actor had like I believe he went to rehab and couldn't continue the film, so he
Yeah.
just wasn't in that one.
Yeah. It wasn't rehab, unfortunately. He got arrested.
I know like he did do
We're talking
rehab.
crab here, right?
Yeah, he was an alcoholic, and
Mhm.
I thought there was something, but I also didn't want to say it and like slander someone for no reason.
I've heard that he got arrested for having a drug op. I might be mistaken.
Oh, I thought it was actually much worse, actually. I thought it had been something in his relationship that had ended violently, and then he ended up arrested for that, and he was put into like a rehab program afterwards, probably
Yeah,
because he was an actor in the Harry Potter series and they kind of pushed it on him, right? Like
maybe.
it's bad for Warner Brothers image for something like that to happen just with an
So
off cast.
I have brought it up. In April 2009, the actor who played Crab and a
Mhm.
friend were pulled over by police, and when they searched their vehicle, they found a knife and 8 bags of weed. And then in October of 2011, he was arrested for his participation in the 2011 England riots. And
Oh,
then on March 2012, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison for the riots. So that's why he wasn't in the film.
I mean, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm pretty like I'm not gonna say it's a shame he wasn't there because like you don't need those kind of people around, but also like it is just disappointing that I have this piece of information that will always be wrong, and I correct it every time.
Yeah, it
I
does
know
feel
the
weird. It does feel weird having a
yeah,
different actor in that position.
and it's the same thing here, just with like a color of the shoes. But
Yep.
and then the other aspect of it is like you're overthinking this question for
Mhm.
sure because it's the Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah, and that's another reason why I was surprised that he misses because it's the Wizard of Oz. The ruby slippers are so iconic.
Mm, honestly, I know I've seen The Wizard of Oz, but I was so young and haven't revisited it that
Yeah,
I only remember the the Wicked Witch melting, the red slippers, and the house being dropped on one of
yeah.
them.
But see, you said you haven't seen it in years, but one of the things you remember is the ruby slippers
Yeah.
because it is so ingrained with what the Wizard of Oz is.
Also, it's just a pop culture thing of
100%. Yeah,
Dorothy clicking her heels and wishing to go
yeah.
home, right? It's so much in our like pop
Zeitgeist.
culture, yeah, zeitgeist that we can't escape it almost. And yeah, it's just he knew too much about Wizard of Oz, and that was the problem.
Yeah.
So, three perfect rounds, one with two misses, so we get 18 to 15. And a lot of the match kind of moves back and forth in that same sort of pacing. Um, Odd Couple deferring again. Uh,
Hmm.
I wonder if it's just their new strategy or if, like, I wonder if it was a planned thing that, like, we're going to switch over to deferring because we think it's a strategic advantage in certain aspects. Or if they just did it because, like, you don't fix a thing that's broken.
Yeah,
Is it some sort of sports superstition that, like, we're not gonna go first again until we lose because we have this momentum?
that's probably what it is more the superstition thing, but it could also be the strategy thing, like because it's been known that they usually go first.
Mm,
So maybe it's just like, hey, we're do this, and it'll throw them off.
yeah, that could be very possible. I know they both really like doing it in their singles career,
Hmm.
and the Odd Couple has almost always spun first if given the
Yeah.
opportunity, until this tournament. And it started with Jeff. I believe it was in the Adam match. He might have started at a match before that, but like I know he does it in the Adam match and loses, and yet decides to keep doing it. So it's definitely been a change in strategy for
Mhm.
whatever reason. Uh, but Final Exam hits Oscars and then respins into Festival Darlings, and at this point, Um, just before we get into round two, though, did you have any particular feelings one way or the other for the teams?
It would have been nice to see the final exam win because it just would have been nice to see Lon have a belt. You know?
Yeah, and I mentioned that same thing last week. I really wanted to see Lon at least like play for it because he got to the end of that teams tournament, I believe, and then
Yeah,
just
just missed.
lost. Yeah, and and that was very sad. I've been a fan of Lon for years, even
Me too.
before I knew what the Schmoedown was, because I came from Screen Junkies.
Yeah, me too. So Lon is one of my favorite, not just personalities on the show, but also one of my favorite follows on Twitter. I love love him on Twitter.
Oh yeah, he is hilarious almost constantly.
Oh, for sure. Now back into the match when they spun Festival Darlings, my thing was, oh fuck, they better not miss a question
Yeah,
because of
and
Snyder.
see, I thought they can't miss a question, and they won't.
Yeah,
But before I get into that, I did have Lon. I wanted Lon to win,
mhm.
and I'm a huge Paulo Yama fan, so I wanted him to succeed as well.
Yeah.
But
His
going into
character
this
switch
match,
definitely his character flip this year made me more of a fan of him because I thought he was a complete douche last year. Like
I
legit.
actually liked. I loved his character
It
last year.
rubbed me the wrong way. It
Yeah.
really
I know it did for so many people,
Mhm.
but I just really like that him and Chance both have kind of the same,
Yeah.
even the same like trajectory of people like kind of being very put off from them at the
Yeah.
beginning and them slowly having to prove like match after match, everybody doubting them, etc., and just proving all of the audience wrong while also embarking on incredible starts to both of their careers.
Mhm.
And then just I don't know, I really enjoy the snarky characters. So like Chance Ellison, Mike Kalinowski is one of the
Yeah.
best at it. The issue with Mike was at the time he was doing it to Rachel, and Rachel is my hands down favorite competitor.
Yeah.
So
There's definitely that
I
bit of protection there.
I was at one point very anti-corruption, specifically because I was anti Mike Kalinowski.
Lucky you now, you're their aficionado.
Yes, I have seen the light, and it was glorious.
Glorious.
And yes, it all started with Elliot Dewberry, and
Really?
the rest is history.
Ah.
Yeah, it was honestly like that draft moment. Shannon coming up and just like, I'm gonna need more champagne for this, and then just like chugs her champagne, then just when I say wild, you say berries, and then
Oh yeah.
picks Elliot Dewberry and crushes just everyone's hopes of having a happy season.
In particular, Dave's.
Very much Dave's, who I'm hoping is still lurking in the background somewhere here. And hurt
No,
me.
he's not.
Disappointing. He'll
Yeah,
hear me in editing.
of course. Hi, Dave.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I just had a feeling though going into this one. I was just like, they're gonna play great, and they did play great,
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna show they are championship caliber teams players, and a championship caliber team. It's not gonna happen. I don't know why. I felt that you can't keep knocking Jeff Snyder down. Your
Yeah,
arms are gonna get tired.
the way I'm looking at it right now is Final Exam is in the same place Shazam was last year, almost. Except Shazam went to Spectacular. They needed that big loss before they won. And I think
Yeah,
Final Exam next year could win the team titles.
that's actually a very good way of looking at it, and I had not thought of it in that aspect. But then, on the other hand, this Odd Couple run reminded me of the Founding Fathers, and
Okay.
like, and I mean, combined with their play from last year.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
yeah.
you look at like Founding Fathers didn't have the best Anarchy tournament, but Dan later gets to cash in, they get to win the title, and the rest is them just playing 5-round matches, mostly against corruption.
Yeah, that's true.
But it I very much thought the Odd Couple was playing to the best of their abilities,
Oh, 100%.
and
100%.
yeah, and I was very worried at seeing Mark Andreyko just not play his best in the singles tournament, and I was worried about like where his prep was at, but like that immediately went away because he's been doing super well. But also for some reason the two of them together just kind of the Odd Couple is one of the most perfect teams just because uh, it allows Jeff and Mark to play outside of themselves a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jeff gets to be two different people depending on if he's Jeff Snyder, the In Snyder, and you're facing him alone, or that much more laid back Jeff Snyder we see in The Odd Couple.
Yeah, he's very much more digestible when he's with The Odd Couple.
Yeah, and he's very like, I mean, for all this like talk about how if they couldn't get it done or if he didn't feel his teammate was up to it, that he might walk away. Um, he's an incredible teammate.
100%. And I agree with something that he says at the end of the match, that if they win the third title, there's no way you cannot deny him a spot on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I mean, I personally already have him there.
Yeah, me too.
Because I go personally Rachel, Dan, Roca, Snyder.
Yeah, that's a great Mount Rushmore. I would put, as much as Kalinowski like helped resurrect the IG, I think Snyder deserves to be on there more.
Yeah, and I do like Kalinowski would take my like fifth slot.
Yeah.
The only issue is like while he is the driving force behind the IG, he's the unstoppable force to Rachel's immovable object.
Yeah.
And like without the two of them in there, you never get that progression, in my opinion.
Yeah, to put it in a wrestling parlance, they're the Roddy Piper and the Hulk Hogan to each other. Like if it wasn't for those two, we wouldn't have had the Rock and Roll Wrestling connection, which led to the first WrestleMania, which led to like the big success of the WWF.
Yeah.
You could argue it's the same thing with Rachel and Mike. Without them, they wouldn't have the IG wouldn't have become such the great league it did.
Mm. And eventually somebody would have come out and done it, but we would have seen like a more of an Alex Damon situation.
Yeah.
You would see like one player rise to the top, just trash every competitor that they come across, and then like it'll take like a season for everyone to catch up. Mm-hmm. But then you also saw with the Star Wars division that when you stick that champion up above everybody else and you put them like literally on a pedestal on top of the mountain, people want to knock it over.
Of course.
And you see just like the jump in the play of Star Wars competitors in just a few years since Damon captures that title. Just everybody just wants to be the person who could say they took down Alex Damon, right?
Yeah, and that's a pretty big check on your resume right there.
Yeah, and I just felt the IG would have went the same way had we only had Mike or only had Rachel.
Yeah, but do you think it would have been as big?
I don't think so.
Memorable?
I'm not sure about like how like widely viewed it would be or how beloved it would be. I do think by the time Kevin Smets enters, yes. Because if Mike or Rachel, especially in their iterations of that time, couldn't have become Alex Damon, that like crazy accuracy, knows everything inside and out, Kevin Smets would have become that.
Yeah.
He is that.
Yeah,
and so much. Like you would have had like him come into the league, crush the division, and then it would actually be like you would have that gap where nobody can quite take him and you get that championship match pretty quickly, but it's impossible to win. Yeah. And then eventually everybody's skill level just raises up, and then somebody challenges him, and it's a 1 point or 1 question victory, like Laura Kelly versus Alex Damon, and then the dominoes would have fallen in more or less the same direction as that division. But going back to why Jeff Snyder is on Rushmore is because he is the best teams player. Yeah. I sometimes go back and forth. There are accolades that definitely belong to Drew McWeeny. because he is, I believe, the winningest teams player. But I think Drew McWeeny is something like 14-3.
Really?
Yeah, because
No, that can't be right.
he was on above the line,
Yeah, but they weren't
and then
around
he
that
was
long.
yeah, but they won the championship after winning the tournament.
Yeah,
So
so
they
that's
won 5 straight, and then they defended,
wait,
and
five
then
straight. Then there was the 3 matches against the Patriots, and then they retired.
yeah,
That's only 7.
yes, and then he went 6-1 with the family.
That's right. I forgot about the family. I forgot about
When
the family.
they
Sorry.
won the teams tournament, or
I forgot
no,
about
they
the
actually
family.
lost the teams tournament, but yeah, they got to the finals of that big teams tournament last
I
year.
forgot about that. I'm sorry, guys.
And yeah, so he has definitely some accolades, but didn't capture that second title.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter that they only held it for one match. It doesn't matter that like they defeated they defeated my personal, what I believe is one of the best teams we've ever had in the Shire Wolves.
If not,
And again, I've always said you never count Jeff Snyder out of a 5-round match. He
Mhm.
will find ways to win, and he has definitely proven that he is one of the best players in this league. Because if any part of his like I don't study whatsoever thing is like true, then he is just the best movie trivia player ever.
yeah, no,
If you just remember all that crap, then
better than Dan, you'd say?
I mean, I'd like to see them play first
Yep.
before making the decision one way or another.
Yep.
But and I do have to give Dan some credit there because he does like hit enough questions even back in the day when study wasn't a huge part
Oh,
of
yeah.
it, that you know, and I've been watching Dan for years as well. I know he has the movie knowledge,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Jeff has the game. Like
Okay.
he
Okay.
he has
I get what you mean. Like,
he
Jeff
has the
Snyder,
immense knowledge and the
player.
skill. Like
Okay.
mhm.
I get what you mean. Like, Snyder is the better player, but Dan probably is the more knowledgeable. Would you say?
I could argue that, but I could also argue that Jeff is pretty damn knowledgeable. Like he as like a writer in that sphere, he definitely knows a lot more than he lets on about a
Yeah.
lot of things. And but yeah, just the way he plays the game and just like always trying to get over on his opponent, and also he plays his character very well. He does everything right and properly. So, and as much
Gets
as
it.
I hate, yeah, as much as I hated the Patriots with every fiber of my being,
Yeah.
you can't disrespect them. You
I
don't
gotta
have
ask.
to respect them, but
Oh,
you
for
can't disrespect them.
so I have to ask you, whenever you would hear Shipping Out to Boston by the Dropkick Murphys come on the radio or something, did you get chills? Like shut the shutter? I did. 'Cause every time I hear it,
I
it's fucking Patriots.
yeah, my blood still boils sometimes when I hear it.
Yeah, I
The
can't.
the
I
one
can't.
time the one time I can remember it happening was in the horror free for all. That time I was legitimately excited.
Oh
I
yeah.
heard half of the first note and I knew exactly who was coming out and gonna sit down, and I was like, this is it. This is the time.
Well, because the Patriots pretty much at this point have passed that level of where they are the most hated team to because you respect them, you love them. You know
Mm,
what I mean? They're gonna get cheered because you respect them.
yeah. And yeah, so if we get back into the match,
Yes.
we have we have a second round that has a 1 point swing in it because final exam in Festival Darlings hits every question. I assumed they would. We saw them like crush the category 2 matches ago, and so like no big surprises.
Yeah.
But they go to multiple choice on one question, and then the odd couple comes in, and I really enjoyed that Roxy defers to Jeff this time because she has been saying recently, whenever her team comes on the camera, she mentions how well she did in her opponent's rounds. But in Festival Darlings, I just don't think people were gonna buy it. And
No.
so she very correctly says, just like, "Oh, Jeff, you would have known all of these," because yeah, Roxy will tell you herself she is not a trivia player for good reason,
And we
and
saw that on Collider Live many a time.
and that's why I love when she does that too, of just like, oh yeah, like play up the fact that you're not good at trivia so that you can trash your opponents by saying, yeah, they're good, but as good as me.
I like it.
Yeah. It's just like the sexy numbers thing. Do it because it pisses everyone off.
And
Like
it's starting to piss me off.
I can't get mad at it because I thought it was kind of silly the first time I heard it. The second time I heard it, I was just like, "Oh no, are you reusing bits?" The third time I heard it, I had heard so many complaints about it already that I was just like, "Oh no, never stop."
Yeah.
Just
I
every
get it.
single time.
I 100% get it, but it's just like, gosh.
And yeah, so Odd Couple comes in, spins Viola Davis, and elect to keep it. A little bit of debate, but they both seem confident, so nothing too much to speak of there. I couldn't get any like glimpse either direction there. But turns out very good round. They go fully perfect. They sweep round 2. And I mean, it's a lot easier to get to 48 points when you start at 30 after 2 rounds, right?
Yeah, no kidding. It's just like, dear God, guys.
That's more than most singles matches. And
Right?
we're
And
only
more
in
than
round
most
2.
team matches.
Yeah, that's actually very true as well. Betting round. Where is that? Ridley Scott. What do the crew call the computer and alien?
Mother.
Yes. Which, yeah, I really like that Jeff was like quoting the movie and like using the vernacular that they used instead of just saying mother. It's just like mother. Yeah, they also both bet 2 points. They both hit it, so no real change in the score.
Yeah.
We've got 32 to 28 going into the lightning round. This is again one of those places where I usually put a lot of emphasis on the first round, but in a 5-round match, this fourth one has a lot of things that can happen.
Especially more so now.
Yeah. If you play it like Odd Couple does, you generally do a little bit better on average. But then final exam answers more questions. They miss only one, and they end up actually gaining a point on the Odd Couple because Jeff takes his speed round very cautiously, making sure that he has the answers and using the timer to very great effect. I could see him answer on 24, 18, and 12. And I was watching, and he like they did the calculations, and he was answering on the 6-second mark.
Yeah,
And
that,
I
that
thought that
just
was pretty neat.
that goes to show like what you mentioned earlier about how he's probably the best player because he
Yeah.
used advantage.
And yeah, Lon goes first in the speed round, and his questions. There's a movie release dates question that he misses, and then Mark also misses the same one. And he passes on one that I cannot remember, and I didn't write it down. But he hits 3 and earns himself 2 points. And then Paul manages to hit all 5 of his questions, so they get 7.
Yeah, after his 2 initial misses in the first round, man, Paul was just on fire.
Yeah, and come to think of it, let me just double check. He hits that, and they hit the 5. Paul Oyama does not miss a question after the first 2.
Could you imagine if he didn't miss those first 2 questions? We'd probably be talking a different story right now.
We'd still be watching the match.
Probably, yeah.
They'd be in sudden death round 42.
Yeah. Everyone would be dehydrated as hell.
Yeah. Nobody would have booking for Spectacular because it wouldn't have been decided yet who is playing. Then Odd Couple comes in. Jeff also kind of mirrors Lon. He hits 3, but he passes on 2 of them. He does run out of time, which kind of shows the downside of like actually using up his time for each question, because he did have an answer for that Jason Bourne question, and just there was no more time to do it in, and that is disappointing, but you can't really argue when you go on to win the match, and doesn't affect the score too much.
Yeah, and it definitely, if it was the other way around, oh yeah, there would have been definitely some head kicking in there. Well, butt kicking.
Yeah, like if they lose by like that 3-point margin, or if it's even closer and they lose, that would just be like gut wrenching, just knowing you could have got that extra point because you had it and ran out of time. But still, 6 points for the Odd Couple. They both pick up 3, and we get 38-35, a 3-point gap that stays for the rest of this match, which I really like when that kind of happens, because that last round, 3rd or 5th, is such a mixed bag. It's such a randomizer that it's very disappointing to lose on a very tough 3, or an opponent having a relatively easier 5, and there's no arguing it when every team hits all 3 questions in the 3rd round, or the 5th round in this case. And then if we want to go through those real quickly, I'll list them out here. Oyama's 2 scores. Who does the score for the Lord of the Rings films?
Howard Shore.
Yep. Lon's 3 is 90s. Who plays Max Klein in Fearless?
That I didn't know.
Yeah, it was Jeff Bridges, which interesting. Okay, because there was definitely a Jeff Bridges question that like Lon was just like, wait, is it just Jeff Bridges again?
Yeah, because earlier it was Crazy. It was a question about Crazy Heart. I can't remember who had it, but yeah, it was about Crazy Heart.
So he hits that, and that puts Final Exam over the Odd Couple. It's not going to be a TKO. Jeff gets Brad Pitt. Ooh. And they kind of debate back and forth of who's going to take Brad Pitt. I think, I mean, Jeff is the correct answer, I think, just because he's a very famous actor. Jeff almost definitely has written about him. And like, if they get a weird, like Brad Pitt is a specialized category, but he's a very well-known commodity, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you hit one of those very niche categories that Andreyko is known for because he enjoys those types of films, then like you're going to be very upset if you swapped these two around. And I think 100% that is the case here. Because while I'm almost positive Jeff wrote an article about 2015's Fantastic Four, he does not know or care who played Doom in that movie.
And Tony Kibble, is his name? Keeble?
Yeah.
Dude was phenomenal in that movie.
Really?
Yeah, I only saw it the one time, but his portrayal of Doom, I really enjoyed.
I kind of liked the original one too.
Oh, Julian McMahon is the benchmark for sure.
And yeah, like I thought he was pretty good, and then the Fantastic Four movies weren't. And that's disappointing because I loved the Fantastic Four.
I like that first Fantastic Four movie. I do.
My favorite like comic storyline is when all the worlds are falling apart and Doom is just like, everybody just trust me, I know how to put the realms back together, and then Reed just won't let him do it and he keeps arguing with him, and Doom just finally turns to him and just says like, admit that you believe I can't do it. And then I think Reed's answer is just like, I don't believe you can't do it. I just know I can do it better. And it's the age-old rivalry, and the fact that I love a superhero who used to be friends with his villain, right? Yeah. And the fact that those two go so far back in their own histories, like the Magneto Professor X kind of relationship. Yeah. And I just really, really enjoyed their dichotomy, and I did not enjoy the actor who played Reed Richards in that first Fan 4 movie. But
really? I liked him.
Yeah.
So I've got something to show you, because you said you're a Fantastic Four fan, right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen this?
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It is a legit story. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good story too.
I actually have not visited a lot of the Marvel and DC comic lines. One, they are so confusing, and like you need to read 90 different issues across 16 different titles because they were. Yeah, it's because they often did them for the end of year crossovers, and so you had bits of all of the Marvel comics that led into the crossover, and then bits of all the DC comics that led into the crossover.
Yeah.
And it was just so much in them. I read the one where Quicksilver and the Flash run to catch, I believe it's the Infinity Gauntlet, gets dropped by Darkseid after they finally get it off of him, which, like, you thought Thanos was bad with the Infinity Gauntlet. Give it to Darkseid.
Yeah, I think I know the comic you're talking about. JLA Avengers?
Yeah.
It's a good, I love that book. I should get it.
I really like that particular, like, race that they have, and then I just like that the Flash gets to hold the Infinity Gauntlet as well.
For me, my thing was, if it is indeed the same book, is Superman holding Cap's shield and Mjolnir.
Yeah, which we get in Avengers Endgame with Cap.
Yeah.
And then, so back to the last two questions, and basically sudden death, right? Like, this is, you answer this question or you go home for both teams. Final exam, comedy. What TV actor co-stars with Jeff Daniels in legal comedy Trial and Error? Do you know?
No, that was the question? I thought it was something different.
Nope. It was Michael Richards, Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember. I do remember the question, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking about something else.
And then the Odd Couples question, I I loved these two questions, and writing them out as I did. So comedy, I believe there was, yes, we got 1992 for Trial and Error, and I believe they give the year for Tremors as well. I could both them out, but you got TV actor, right? And the Odd Couples question is, what musician plays Heather Gummer in Tremors? And it's Reba McEntire.
Yep. What
So,
a little bit behind the scene thing. Like, we were supposed to record this last night. I forgot to do it today, but I changed my name to her husband's name, Burt Gummer, on the because dude, I love Tremors. It's such a good horror movie.
And yeah, like you get a bit about the person's personal life, TV actor versus musician. Then the co-stars with Jeff Daniels versus you give the character's name in the Tremors one. And then you didn't need to explain what Tremors was because it is a very well-known movie. But then you get legal comedy, Trial and Error.
Yeah.
And they're so similar, these two questions, and very different movies, very different answers. And just I felt there's so much controversy with these 5-point questions, and I am more upset at the controversy than any mismatched difficulty of 5 questions that I've ever seen. Honestly,
yeah,
people are just
definitely good questions. I'd say the Trial and Error one was probably a bit more harder and obscure than the Tremors one.
Well, yes and no. I guessed Trial and Error just by assuming the sitcom. Like I thought it was 92, so I was like, okay, it's gotta be like one of two, and I figured it was gonna be Seinfeld, and also because of the way the question was worded, I knew it was gonna be himself. And so, never having seen the legal comedy Trial and Error, but I do kind of want to watch it. I like Jeff Daniels.
Me too.
Like
Underrated
legal comedies. I actually really enjoy legal comedies, so maybe this movie's for me. And yeah, so Odd Couple hits that. Mark knows it within like 0.5 seconds.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, I know this."
Yeah.
Reading the question, I'm like, "Oh, come on, I know this." To me, that was honestly, that's not a 5-pointer, but that's just me personally.
Yeah, like I haven't seen the movie specifically. I've seen bits of it, but I'm generally like not a horror fan, so I have seen so
it's
little.
Not a graphic horror movie though. It's really not. It's more reminiscent of like the. If you wanted to talk gore level, it's more reminiscent of like an old 50s spy horror movie, like something like that. Like there's really like you see people die, but it's not gory whatsoever.
And that is the ones I would gravitate towards. And and to be fair, one of the horror movies I can actually say I like does have a lot of those like it doesn't have the gore though, because most of it happens off screen because they didn't have a budget was really the issue.
What movie was that?
It was The Strangers.
Oh yeah.
And just because like the premise of the movie is so like plain and simple and weird and terrifying, and then it is just that moment where the guy kills his own best friend who was coming to rescue them because like you called him, you knew he was coming. One, I disagree that you don't just know the sound of your buddy's engine outside. Because I have friends who drive cars, and if one of them drives to my building, I know which one is outside. Their car makes a sound, and I'm like, that is Kyle, or that is John. Which one of those is an actual friend of mine? So yeah. Anything else you want to say about Final Exam before we get into the spectacular match that Odd Couple's going on to?
I'm sad to see their season end, but fuck, man, what a way to go out.
Yeah, if you're gonna go out scoring 45 points,
Yeah.
but preferably just keep going. And um, I I should mention, uh, Winston has a terrible, terrible choice coming to him.
Yeah.
Much like my favorite manager, has about 5 or 6 players they want to keep, and only 3 spots to put people in. I do worry for both like Lon Harris's and final exams future.
Yeah. You
One,
think
we're
this
not.
is the end for him?
I I do think that Lon enters the draft. At this point, I believe Winston guarantees he keeps Paloyama.
Mhm.
I I think he keeps or Chandru, win or lose. And then if Ace wins, he probably keeps Ace. And if not, I would pick Liz Shannon Miller. And I
Yeah.
might even, it would be sacrilege to drop a champion into the draft, but I might even do it. Just to keep, if you can take Paulo Yama, Liz Shannon Miller, and Chandru Dandapani into next year, we know that teams matches will only happen in a studio.
Yeah.
So, like, how much does final exam get into play? Uh,
Yeah.
as much as I love him, Lon is not the strongest singles competitor, and he does seem to really find his groove in teams matches. He's another
Yeah.
guy who's had a million teams partners and brings them all pretty damn far.
So do you think the fact that we're not going to get teams until studio, do you think that'll weigh in heavily on a lot of the managers' decisions?
I do believe so. Um, they would have a better idea because
Yeah.
they're actually involved in the process. They might know how far off this is. They might know that there is, like, they could be talking to studios now, or they could
Yeah.
be talking to like a theater.
Yeah.
Not a
There was
movie,
somebody.
because we do know those are going out of business as well. But like an open
Why would you
theater.
say that? Um,
I,
who
I,
was somebody in my life said that they think that Harloff's going to announce at Spectacular that they have a studio.
See, yeah, and he does have announcements to make at
Yeah.
Spectacular. I could see that happening, but I won't hold my breath for it.
Yeah.
I do think he would have just not said anything if that was a guarantee, because like he wouldn't have even put it out there that we might not have teams next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it is definitely not like a guarantee. And I do worry for some of the specialist teams players that you're gonna find yourself falling into the draft in favor of somebody who, one, can play in multiple divisions, or two, specifically plays in the divisions that are worth more points per match.
Yeah.
And your triple threat players are going to be the hottest commodities, which is why, as many people as I've seen argue it, Mike Kalinowski is going to be signed by corruption. You don't drop a 3
No.
division player for no reason. We watched corruption win the entire season on the back of that IG tournament. And
Yeah.
if we're not having teams matches next year, we need something to fill that airtime with. And it's either going to be more singles matches, or it's going to be specialist matches that are worth more.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I don't see I don't see Shannon going crazy and grabbing like a Laura Kelly, because Star Wars is still a little too specialized.
Yeah.
But with the likelihood of Adam Collins entering IG and becoming a triple threat himself, if you had 3 players who played all 3 divisions, you're gonna be
you're set.
terrifying.
You're set.
Yeah, because you honestly, at that point, you just draft people you want to play with. Like, I mean, draft a couple of people who might turn into good projects, but you're looking for that pretty much.
Yeah.
And speaking of both corruption and spectacular, and a little bit, we're gonna put the odd couple to the side for a second, and we'll talk about Swag has to win everything in order to win. Corruption has essentially run away with the league as of now with their 11-point lead over Swag, and that is both championship matches.
Yep. That IG tournament for them, man, was a godsend.
Do you realize it can almost happen? I mentioned way back that Corruption could put themselves in a position to lose every match at Spectacular and still walk away with the victory.
Yep.
But here is the interesting thing. If Chandru and Ace both get knockouts, and that would also require Collins losing to Dan Merle, because if Corruption wins either of their matches, they win. End story. But if Ace and Chandru both get knockouts, Swag will win with 67 points to 66.
Wow.
So, what I kind of want to see, I mean, honestly, I just want Swag to lose one of their matches and Corruption to win. That's the way I want the year to end.
How dare you, sir? How dare
you? But it would be pretty cool to see one KO have them tie and get that 7th spectacular match.
Shit, that would
Fuck. And Christian has said
that 7th match though.
Yeah, Christian has said that I think it would be like, he never said if it would be one or if it would be a team or multiple players, whatever. Maybe it's a relay, who knows? But he has mentioned that like it would be people who are on hand.
Oh, probably.
And so people involved in Spectacular, which kind of makes me wonder, is it an IG Teams match?
Dude, could you imagine?
Oh man, yeah.
Could you imagine Corruption, Mike, and Chance versus Ace and Chandru?
I can't imagine, because we have been told IG Teams matches are not going to happen. I don't want anyone to get too excited.
Hey man, but you know what? It will be a great way to end it.
And just because, like, if you were going to go with multiple competitors, the ones on hand happen to be in this niche, and it would be cool to. They're the only teams that I would find it fair to do this with. Because if you forced, like, if it was the Finstock Exchange and one of these two teams, they'd have to play singles. Winston would just have to have Oyama and Lon on hand at Spectacular, just in case. Which, you know, he might have to anyway. And lastly, a couple Shazam.
Yeah.
Who you got?
Oh, Jesus. You know, momentum definitely favors Odd Couple in this because they've played more recently to Spectacular than Shazam has. But you know, I'm gonna give Shazam this one.
See, I think if we're arguing momentum, Odd Couple has it now.
Yeah,
sure, but I would like to enter into evidence Corruption versus Shazam.
True.
And they had been off for a few weeks at that point. And they had done their mini teams tournament and they had momentum. Shazam charged through most of those teams they had to play, while the final exam still kind of finding their groove. And then, momentum definitely with Shazam as much as it is with the Odd Couple. You have recent reps which help the Odd Couple, but then I don't know how long Shazam has been preparing.
That's true.
If they do like a 3-week, a 2-week, a 1-week kind of like crash course before matches, who knows exactly what it is, but they could be fired up. And I do want to say the Odd Couple wins though. I think Jeff Snyder will into his existence his third team's belt, and it
can be
done. The first. The first. Give me a second.
What, the first to hold 3 teams belts? Yeah, he'd be the first.
No, yes, first to 3 teams belts. Yes, other than Dan Murrell, he's going to be the first person to win a belt 3 times.
That is
specific
true.
Belt.
You would be the second one.
Yeah, and I mean, they might as well just call the team's division the Snyder division after that, because and then I'll have all of these goofy names.
It's going to have a good ring to it.
Yeah, the IG tournament is the Corruption Invitational. You have the Snyder division. You have
yeah,
and then you have just Alex Damon. Yeah, singles is it's too hard to encompass in a very succinct way like that, but the other 3 divisions can be told about as like they are just Jeff Snyder is teams, Alex Damon is Star Wars, and Corruption is Inner Geekdom.
Well, you could say
singles is making a run at that.
Singles is Merle.
You could say Merle because he does have the 4 championships, but also there are people who have played better than Merle, even though that's hard as hell to do.
Yep.
Like Adam Collins is playing above honestly anything I've seen Dan Murrell do, even though I watched him win several matches straight to capture his first championship. And Dan's first championship is the closest to Adam Collins that I see. And I don't think Adam Collins will look like Dan Murrell in the long run, but it's terrifying that he even does now.
Yeah, I'm thinking this title match will lead up. Will have the same. Will feel like when Irwin and Merle faced off for the first time in New York. It's going to be a fight because Merle had to go perfect to win that game.
Yeah, and I am positive that Adam Collins will have to as well.
Yeah. So on that note, Daniel, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, I can be found at our Facebook page. That's Schmoes of the North, a Schmoedown fan page, and I can be found on Twitter at my handle down here at avengers_SOTN, Schmoes of the North. And that's more or less it. I'm around in all the different Schmoedown groups, mostly lurking. I don't comment very often, but I do when I think of something either insightful or funny.
Yeah, I'm like with you. I don't really comment as much as I did when I joined. Yeah. And you can find me over on Twitter and Instagram at soda_the_saxman. You can find me every week here with either Daniel, Dave, or Lou, whichever combination it is, on Schmoedown 9 Canada, and of course on Northern Consultations, which coming up we just had the Barbarian. That was the latest one that dropped. So definitely check that one out. It was a great time. Got to know the
really great episode.
It really was. I had a lot of fun. I wasn't originally supposed to be on it, but I'm glad I was. And then you can find me on my other YouTube channel over on the Media Sweaties Network, where I am on several shows over there. Sundays we have Get Sweaty, which is our top 5 show. We have on Saturdays Recapping the Past, where my friend Ben Renner and I sit down and we pretty much watch a series, sitcoms primarily, and we're going to rank them at the end and what have you. Right now we're doing Saved by the Bell. And then you can also, yeah, we just finished Good Morning Miss Bliss, which is the original version of Saved by the Bell, and now we're actually starting Saved by the Bell proper. Yeah, and you can also find us on our other show, Shooting the Breeze, where again Ben and I just sit down and we shoot the shit with a friend of ours from around the internets. We've had Lou on, we just had Dave on. We will have to have you on, Daniel, at some point.
Yeah, we should definitely schedule that in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're booked till Christmas, but yeah.
Well, I was going to say, my filming schedule is getting a little lighter.
A little bit, yeah. It would be great to have you on, because like I said, we let you choose the topic.
Also, wait. I just gotta mention to everyone watching, we're joking about that. We're probably gonna be here for as many of the off-season weeks as we can think of an idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna quote Rocky in this. You ain't never getting rid of us.
Yeah. I'm still gonna be here forever.
Yeah, you'll find Dan reading his notes even when there's nothing to record.
Mm-hmm. I take notes on pretty much everything.
It's true. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And so that's pretty much it. Like Daniel said, subscribe to the YouTube channel, the video. Every bit of that helps. Because we've hit 100 subscribers, we do have a little something coming down the pike. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But to give you one hint, the Schmoedown series.
It may have actually already dropped.
No, this is coming out before that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's only going to be like a day or two difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next time.